This book looks at two kinds of pretending. Pretending to know stuff we don't, and pretending not to know stuff we do. For just as we might avoid saying, "I don't know," for fear of being ridiculed or rejected, the flip can also be true. Sometimes we pretend ignorance of things we think might lower our cachet, whether to prove our membership in highbrow culture, "What's a Kardashian?" or to accommodate social pressures, as so many women of my mother's generation were warned, boys aren't attracted to smart girls. This book also looks at two kinds of fear. Fear of estrangement and fear of stepping into the abyss. For as much as we might worry that saying, "I don't know," could cost us the human company we desire, evict us from our place around the hearth, there's an even more primal fear associated with not knowing. That our inability to comprehend the universe might threaten our very survival. Our efforts to compensate for both social and psychic fears manifest in some pretty interesting ways. Finally, this book looks at two kinds of hope. That which comes from opening ourselves up to a greater understanding of the world and ourselves, and that which comes from making peace with all that must, in the end, remain unknown. In August 2012, Harvard University announced that it was investigating allegations that approximately 125 undergraduates taking an Introduction to Congress class had cheated on the take-home final the previous spring. In December 2012, the investigation concluded with more than half those students being forced to withdraw. The Dean of Undergraduate Education described the case as unprecedented in its scope and magnitude. The press quickly dubbed it the Harvard cheating scandal. A scandal is something that causes outrage and shock, reactions which in this case were likely exacerbated by a perceived discrepancy between the actors and the behavior. Those who succumbed to the temptation to cheat had already gained admittance to one of the most elite educational institutions in the world. The subtext of much of the resultant furor seemed to be, "But you guys are already in. You guys have it made. Of all people, why would you guys feel the need to cheat?" This presupposes that the very smart are also the very emotionally secure, that they never feel intense pressure to prove their worth or to save face. But surely such weaknesses are human. Who among us has never felt vulnerable to them? And I further wonder if those who have been granted the measure of approval signaled by acceptance into a competitive school might actually be more susceptible to certain anxieties. I'm thinking of the way college students sometimes contort their prose into incomprehensible pretentious muddles, all in a disastrous bid to sound erudite. I'm thinking of the way junior faculty may blush pink to the rims of their ears as they struggle to cover for lack of familiarity with a text or theory mentioned by a senior scholar. I'm thinking of the subtly stratifying culture prevalent on many college campuses, not only in the classroom, but at the water cooler and on the quad. A kind of endless cycle of proving and testing, of esoteric referencing and faked recognition. A game played out in grimaces and knowing nods, belied by a look of vague panic in the eyes. My friend Gary tells this joke. A high school senior from the Bronx is visiting Harvard. Lost, he intercepts a young man striding across the yard. "Excuse me," he says, "could you please tell me where the library's at?" The young man peers down his nose. "Here at Harvard," he edifies, "we never end our sentences with a preposition." The kid scrunches his brow, thinks earnestly a moment. "Excuse me," he says, "could you please tell me where the library's at, asshole?" I don't submit such snooty gatekeeping as either the norm or the whole story. But if there weren't a crumb of truth in it, the joke wouldn't exist. People cheat when they are afraid. When there is no cost to being wrong or confessing ignorance, there is no reason to cheat or fake comprehension. During my first week of graduate school, fear kept me from asking what a nut graph is. As I grew more confident, both of my skills and of my relationships with classmates and professors,